I'm Vernon Griffith. Welcome to Raw Truth. I was given no guidance on what number episode this was, so I guess just look what the last episode was. Let's get this started.
All right, Vernon, describe your background in personal training and how you started training the GBRS team.
Man, got into training on a deployment one time. Really didn't grow up. I was really good at sports, really skilled, but really never got into working out. And on a deployment one time, really got into training. From there, all the old blogs, Men's Health, Muscle and Fitness, Elite FTS, reading all those articles by Dave Tate and Mark Ripito and all those legends, and really inspired my knowledge for it. So I started going to school for exercise science while I was deployed, or while I was still in the military. Got out of the military, finished up my degree, decided to open up a gym working with a lot of athletes. But through my military experience, got connected with some military agencies and started working with disabled veterans, active duty guys, special operations personnel. And that's where I met DJ and Cole. And it's kind of grown since then. Now I kind of lead all their training, run with them, travel with them, work with them. So it's been quite the journey.
If you could only do 3 sessions a week on GBRS training performance,
If you can only do 3 days a week on the GBRS performance program, yes, you should do Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Those are kind of our big bricks. Wednesday is kind of our core rotational day where we integrate a lot of those movements together. Friday's kind of an accessory day right now with current programming, but Monday, Tuesday, Thursday are our big bricks for guys that are kind of short on a time frame. We want them to get those days in.
hip mobility.
Best way to increase hip mobility is to explore tension. Tension is a big option when it comes to the available mobility that we have. Are we exploring that range of motion? Are we strengthening through that range of motion? Are we challenging that tissue through a rotational aspect? The hip is a ball and socket joint. It's a triplanar joint with a lot of muscles that kind of around and wrap. So from there, it's multiplanar joint. And then from there, it's exploring rotation. How are we challenging that ball and socket joint? Are we integrating closed chain movements with the foot? Are we challenging that hip through, integrating it with the shoulder and the spine? It's not just isolating that movement locally, but then working out globally and how those movements all connect with each other.
How has your training evolved since coming out of the military, and what is your main focus with your training style?
Best piece of advice I've been given when it comes to training, especially military guys, tactical athletes, or even athletes in general, is I'd rather be a mile short than an inch too far. When it comes to stress and how stress is applied, I think with coaching, we always want to give the best workout possible. And I think that's the biggest miss, because the workout is probably the smallest portion of their day. And we're asking people to go perform high stressful jobs, to go home, deal with stressful situations. The workouts should promote and teach them how to manage stress and not just break them down so much that it interferes with how they react and respond to stress in their daily life. So for me as a coach, it's been taking my foot off the gas a little bit, thinking long-term, thinking longevity, that minimal effective dose, like how little can I apply to someone to get the most response, and then being able to spread that out over a year, and not this 8-week fat camp stuff. It's, hey, we have a whole year. How can we get this stress that we need over this whole year without putting too much at one time? I look at the tactical athlete or a military professional no different than I would look at any athlete. A human being is going to human a lot longer than they will athlete, or that they will longer military. So it's just exposing them to different movement patterns, getting them outside of just that sagittal load of lunges, squats, deadlifts, getting them rotating, getting them into the frontal plane, exposing them to ranges of motion that they can continue doing for the rest of their life. So for me, that's my purpose. That's my focus on them, is getting them outside of that traditional thought process. We still do those, but exposing them to all those other different movements. Strategic. It's when can I apply the stress? The difference between a callus and a blister is how fast you impose that stress. So am I going too hard, imposing a blister on this person, or am I exposing stress minimally, strategically? So now that this becomes a callus that we can use as a tool. The knees are a hinge joint, so flexion and extension. And I think a lot of people approach the knee from a lunge standpoint, a squat standpoint, but even with squat and lunges, there's rotational forces that are on the knee when it comes to the ankle and the femur above it. The knee is the joint of it's almost like that stepchild that no one wants to talk about, because I have knee problems. You don't have knee problems. You have foot and hip problems. The knee is just the go-between. If your hip's not doing the right thing, if your feet are externally rotated, foot's not pronating, we have issues with the foot, of course that's going to relocate up to the knee, because as we're walking, if my foot is not in line while I'm walking and it's slightly off to the side, the knee has to balance that in some way as it works its way up to the hips. So to me, the knee is often given to be the problem. Like, oh, I have knee problems. Maybe you should look at the feet and the hips. Maybe the knee's just trying to do the best job it can. I'll give you 2 stories. First story, I had a guy come in. There was a triple amputee, and I was like, hey man, what do you want to do? And he was like, I want to box jump. I fucking laughed at him because I was like, bro, you literally don't have legs. And he was like, I used to love box jumps. I used to love being able to jump and just be explosive and feel like an athlete. And he was like, and then when that IED went off, I lost that option. So getting him more comfortable on his little nubs, working around on the ground. But then we got him to be able, this is going to sound crazy, to be able to jump with those nubs onto like a 6-inch plyo box.
That's cool.
And that was pretty rewarding. And then I had another guy that kind of changed my focus for everything. He was probably one of my first amputees that I worked with. It was a Marine guy, blew off both of his arms with an IED. He was trying to disarm. He was an EOD guy, and blew off both of his arms, blew off half his face. And he was like, I want to deadlift. I was like, how the fuck are you going to deadlift, man? You don't have arms. And it was a kind of a joke, but he was like, I would really like to be able to deadlift again. It was my favorite exercise. And I remember asking him, like, why? Why would you want to do that? And then through that conversation, probably like an hour long, it kind of flipped. Instead of asking people why do they want to do something, it's like, why not? Like, why can't you do that?
Wow.
So we set him up on this harness. I kind of put a bunch of straps together around his shoulders and connected the bar to the strap so he could find the hinge with his shoulders, and he just kind of stood up without it, without using his arms, obviously, so he could deadlift again. And it was a pretty profound moment, because it was like everything as a coach would say, absolutely not. You should not ever try to deadlift. But giving something back to someone that was taken from them, it was pretty powerful.
That's amazing, man. It's got to be really rewarding.
Yeah.
How do you track and assess a client's progress in terms of functional fitness or functional gains?
I think it just matters on what they want. Not everything can be tracked. Of course, we can measure range of motion, but oftentimes, like, if I measure your range of motion the first day I meet you, it's probably going to be off because you got a weird dude touching your leg, moving you through a range of motion. You're probably going to be a little guarded first 8 weeks in. You're probably a lot more comfortable with me. I can move you through a range of motion. I'm probably going to have more. So I think it's just, some of it is subjective in nature, like just asking people how they feel, seeing how they move. Not everything can be objective when it comes to rotational movements or feel or comfort. Of course, you can measure strength or velocity, but sometimes it's just asking people like how they feel, feeling better. To me, that's enough. With the amount of military guys I've worked with, high-level athletes, honestly, someone saying they feel better, I think is truly, truly a valuable thing, because once someone feels a certain way, the second they don't feel like that, they know. So I think the feel of how they feel, knowing who they are, I think that's pretty valuable, and it can't be measured.
You could probably measure that also, like just through feel, but also like mental health.
Yeah,
that's huge.
I love subjective questionnaires, man. Every day, any guy I train with, they fill out a subjective questionnaire, how they feel. I mean, it kind of goes back to the hungry, horny, happy, like those 3 things, man. Like, what's your energy like? How'd you sleep last night? The stress, how are you adapting to stress? Like, all those 3 answers right there can tell you a lot about someone with where they are.
This person asks, what do I prioritize for run training in terms of recovery and injury prevention?
The first question I would ask is, why are you running? Like, is this part of a PT test or something that you have to have that locomotion aspect of aerobic activity? Because the heart doesn't care whether you're running, whether you're jumping jacks or rowing or riding a bike. The heart doesn't care. Your cardiovascular system just adapts to output. So when it comes to running, are we purely just running for a locomotion aspect, for the plyometric nature of running when it comes to our ankles, our feet, and our knees, our hips? So then it's, well, what's the test? Like, what are you preparing for? So a lot of the guys in the GBRS program that I'm working with, like, I have a lot of active military guys, SWAT people on the program, and it's like, hey, We want to sprint enough to peak the nervous system and prepare for those high intensity bouts of sprints when it comes to our hamstrings and that elastic component of running. But the amount of slow, long distance running that we do, we sort of minimize to be strategic, because you only got so much of a battery, and I don't want to wear down joints. I'd rather build structure, rather build strength, improve mobility, and then work on the heart and other aspects. But obviously there is an aspect of running, but for most military tests, you're not running longer than 2 miles. So the guys that go eat up 10 miles for a running bout, if you want to do that, I completely encourage it. But me telling a 230-pound dude to go run 10 miles, like, that is a lot of wear and tear compared to a 170-pound guy.
Mm-hmm. How do you prioritize safety during workouts, especially when incorporating functional movements?
Safety's number one. That's the last place, especially with athletes that I work with. They cannot get hurt in the weight room. The dynamic movements they do on the basketball court, on the football field, like, the last thing they can do is get hurt under my watch. So to me, it's injuries can never be prevented, but we can try to mitigate and manage that exposure as much as possible. So for me, it's starting out that conversation as early as possible. Like, hey, how do you feel today? I might have this great workout plan, but if I know you didn't sleep well last night, if I knew you stayed out late drinking, if I'm not obvious and aware of that, like, now I'm pretty negligible as a coach. Like, I need to be, okay, I know we planned on going pretty heavy today, but it's not going to happen. So having enough trust with your client to be able to be like, hey, we're going to pull it back today, and maybe we push a little bit further next week, but we need to be responsible about looking at this whole year. And then when it comes from a functionality aspect, it's like, think local to be global. Like, if I'm doing a frontal plane movement, like a lateral lunge or some sort of rotational movement, do they have proper big toe extension? Can their ankles get into dorsiflexion? Do they have these local things that allow me to give a global movement? Because if they don't have that, and I'm prescribing like some sort of lunge pattern and their toes cannot extend and bend, they're probably not going to be able to get there. So now it's like, think local. What am I truly trying to focus on? Keep the main thing. And then from there, how can I integrate this into a program? So it's almost like zooming in and zooming back out. As a coach, like, zoom in, see the toes, zoom back out, look at the lunge. If I'm doing some sort of pike to push up, moving the scaps, zoom in, does the scap move? Okay, then this is a great exercise. But if I'm trying to do push-ups and the scaps don't move and they're just kind of locked down and rigid and we can't move around the rib cage, that might not be the best exercise. So it's like, think local to be global and go back and forth as you constantly evaluate and assess your clients.
What are you looking forward to in this collaboration with Raw?
I'm gonna be fucking honest, man. I have no idea. The people here have been pretty damn awesome. It's been pretty vibrant. The energy's been pretty electric. But it's like everything you think, and then it's constantly over delivered. So the people, the opportunities, the energy that's here, it's like, I have no idea. Like, my wife was like, hey, what are you planning on doing down there? I was like, I have no fucking idea. Like, I'm just open. I'm open for it. I'm excited for it. And I don't know. People have just been great, man. It'll be cool to see where it goes.
Awesome. So we have spoken. You guys have had a few great opportunities to work with some other supplement companies in the past, and you guys have respectfully just declined those offers. What made Raw different? Why did you guys choose Raw?
I think it's just a feel, man. Like, there's companies, and I get DMs every week of a company that wants to do something, but it's like, is this transactional or is this transformative? Is this something that, yeah, I'll make some money off of and I can, buy some new stuff or put some money or save some money? Or is this something that's transformative, that's going to allow me to impact not only the audience that Raw has, but also provide a good product to people? And then now being here and seeing the ingredients and seeing what's involved with the process, it's like, yeah, this is a great company doing good things. So why would you not want to be in a transformational relationship that can impact who knows how many people?
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
That's all we got. Thank you guys for your time tuning in. Keep exploring.